honorable ministers, ambassadors and diplomats, Dr. Edna Adan, and ladies and gentlemen, friends of Somaliland. It's great to be here and have the opportunity to address you this afternoon regarding a very interesting topic, which is called How do you build a great nation? I think that's a good question, and it's kind of a tricky thing to do, but I would like to share with you the coming 15-20 minutes some thoughts about that. I'm coming from PwC, Jan Sturesson, global leader of government and public services. And PwC is a kind of a local company. My friend here, Jan Lindahl, is working in Sävsjö, so we are a global and local. We can connect the dots between Sweden and Somaliland everywhere. And I think that's interesting. And I think that's good, because we need to find those networks between business, government, not-for-profit sector, education, universities, and so on, wherever we go, to make things happen. Let me also say it's a privilege to work with a person like Michael here, who are a real entrepreneur. He really showcased that this is about passion for the future, to take responsibility. And I would say, when Jan and I are working with Michael Torstensson, you can say he shows respect and he shows integrity, but he also shows love for a country, for people. I think that's even greater than to just show respect. And this is the basis that we can build on to create great countries in the future. Let me also say that I would like to congratulate you, leaders of Somaliland, that it's about to have had a successful process, strategic development process, for your, I would say, focus and determination about your territory, what it should be in the future. But it's also about your vision and aspirations about the future of democracy, transparency, freedom of speech, thought, and religion, and worship, and the human rights, the UN Charter, and all these things. I like to say it's impressive what you've been doing during quite some hard times. And I think that's why we need also not only vision, we also need passion. Because passion helps us to really do things when the wind is coming against us. Passion is to show that we can stand up, we can wait for to reach the objectives even during the hard days. And finally, it's also about the mission. The mission that you are wishing that your country will come into existence recognized by the global community. That I congratulate you to. This requires leadership on all levels. To lead from the front, not from the back. To lead underneath, to serve your fellow people in your country. And I think that's what you do. So having said that, I would like to come into the topic of how do you then really build this country of the future in a good way. And I say, it's to state the obvious. There's a lot of things you need to know, and you know a lot of things regarding investments. Investments, it's very often about money. I think investments is much more than money. Because investment of time, knowledge, ideas, relationships, and also money. If we start with money, we sometimes get caught up in a very strange process. So if we can combine this about trusting one another, then these relationships and ideas will start to flow. So the future is about the knowledge flow between countries, between industry, energy, security, and so on, government. So let me then... Yes, there we got the slide. And I would say what the future of Somaliland is about is transparency and anti-corruption, the democracy and freedom, the personal trust, the legal system. But foremost, I would underline what's needed. It's entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur is not the person sitting in a basement having an idea trying to create a bicycle or a gamification on internet through an app. Entrepreneurs could be a political entrepreneurs, we have them here. It could be a social entrepreneur, we have them here. It could be a societal entrepreneur, we have them here. It could be a business entrepreneur, we have them here. So we can go on and on. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? To get something done. We need entrepreneurs from all sectors of society working together in a new collaboratory called the future. The new interface between countries, sectors, industries, and ideas. Having said that, it's about to have vision and to take risks. Because without vision, people will perish. Countries will perish. Cities will perish. And I think if I should say one word which is the most important for the future of Sweden, the future of Somaliland, that is vision. That takes us also to the need, of course, to attract capital, to attract talents, technology, smart infrastructure, and the latest here we have knowledge and education. The knowledge and education will drive and foster the opportunity to be what? Innovative, on the right-hand side here. The approach to go in to create a country, a great country of the future, is innovation. It's to do the job step by step, which we call prototyping. We cannot plan and that's how let's make it a great country like this. It's step by step by step by step. Small scale, scale it up. So the prototyping and collaboration, including test bedding. A little company maybe have an idea. We need support from government to help them to get market or a client to test their products, to test their ideas. Could be water and sewage, could be ICT, could be transportation, or new energy technology. Help them to get market. There's no lack of money if you look into the global financial community, but there's a lack of market. Every country has a responsibility between private sector and government sector to find the ways with a righteous procurement process to get that market to be grown up. Let me also say that the incentivizing process of those people who invest could be tax incentives, it could be other benefits, but it's also about for you to put pressure on those investors that they will show a long time commitment. Because the shortcut capitalism is gone. We don't need shortcut capitalism. We don't even need shortcut kind of democratization, which is even worse sometimes, because we need long-term democratic processes, long-term privatization of whatever it is. At the same time, when we talk about investments, you don't only need money, you need intelligent money, smart money, which means to privatize things is not the silver bullet. Sometimes it's good to get private capital into a state-owned entities, but I would warn you to not sell the majority in the beginning. Because that very often screws up the whole process, and then it's gone. And that will mean that you won't get transportation, you won't get energy, you won't get water to the whole population. So go step by step, try to attract not only money, but intelligent money, so we can see a process of going upwards and upwards, step by step. When you're starting from scratch, in a sense, which you of course not do, but linked to many countries of infrastructure and technology, you're having a lower level to start from. That creates an opportunity to leapfrog, to jump, and not try to build the traditional grid system in different areas. For example, in electricity. Smart grids, smart technologies, smart cities, smart energy, and so on, is another way to think. So let me take the next slide. And also say that it's about having the perspective on what is a society. And of course it's about resources. And we talk about the new sustainable capitalism, which is far beyond money. It's about the environmental resources, the democratic resources, the social resources, the intellectual resources, the ICT resources, and the political and cultural resources. That is a different way to slice the cake. If we start to think about how should we grow all these capitals, because capital means head, doesn't mean money, it means head. How do we grow these capitals in Somaliland? We will get a new matrix of how to organize the country. And I think to create a great country, we need to think before we have it in place, how should we flesh it out? How should we cut the cake? How should we design the processes, the structure, the leadership, and the values? And I would say this is one way. So we get also the cultural things into this way of assessing our assets. Then it's also about the stakeholders. And I've already said it's important to find the interfaces, or let me call it the in-between spaces of the university, the small private companies, the bigger ones, the state-owned things, the city-owned things, and all the other actors who have a role to play to create business in private side or create services in the public side. Private business is like the bloodstream in the body. We need the heart to pump, which to regulate, to set the borders about how can we do, how can we act, how can we have this, I would say, legal system in place, the rule of law, and strong law enforcement if things doesn't work out. And I can say about connecting this resource with the stakeholders is one of the important design things to build a great nation. Next slide. The new capitalism, you can easily say, well, what's the most important part? Well, short term is money. But long term, we call it intellectual capital, IC. Intellectual capital. That you cannot touch. That's about the processes, the organization, the people, the renewal, the speed of understanding and learning, and innovation, and patents and things. From the smallest thing, the little company, to the biggest one. That is the unseen. If you think about an iceberg, this is what's underneath the surface. That's where we capitalize and we draw the knowledge and create business, create wealth and welfare between government, private sector, and the citizens. So let me say that the focus should be long-term of what we do not see today. Intellectual capital, also maybe the social capital is very important to think about because they will create the financial resources. Next slide. Sweden did 1996 a prototype of an intellectual capital annual account. And this is some nice small girls sitting there. It was about the welfare and security. And it's about the world's first prototype of national intellectual capital reporting. This was about security, it was about knowledge, it was about the wealth and welfare. And the question we have to ask ourselves about welfare, are we faring well? Are we on a good trip? Are we on a trip that we create a legacy or do we consume a legacy? Financially, socially, intellectually, infrastructurally, energy, political or culturally. That's the question. I wish you could move on, and I think you do, on a very interesting route, trying to leverage all these resources in Somaliland, getting the support from Sweden and others, as from countries, getting support from PwC and all other big companies. And let me also say the next slide, what we can say, this showcase that the investments in the future is not investments in goods and visible things and traditional assets. It's about investment in the unseen things. It's about intellectual capital and it's about knowledge, innovation, and process. And you can see here how the red ones, the intangible investments are going right through the roof quite soon. This is the most important picture when you think about what happened in Europe 2008. Financial crisis in Greece, Italy, Ireland, Portugal, and Spain, and so on, Cyprus. We looked into a series of KPIs and financial ratios, trying to figure out what was the status of investment in these countries 20 years ago. And we could see that in these countries who had a financial crisis, there was a downturn of investment of intellectual capital 10 years before the financial crisis. What does it tell us? If we don't invest in knowledge and education, in the elementary schools, in the high schools, and the university, and in the companies about software and patents and other things, creativity, we can be sure that there will be a financial crisis around the corner. So that's important to build, link your vision to what you do not see, but try to imagine the Somaliland as one of those knowledge countries who have point of view in the new sectors of both security, ICT, well-being, healthcare, and you name it. Next slide. When you look into this, it's about a city in Sweden or in Somaliland. And I think, again, it's about understanding the vision for your cities. If it's on the coastline, wherever it is, doesn't matter. It's about the leadership, the brand, it's the social intelligence, and your finances, of course. But it's also about the programs of how you calculate risks, how do you procure, how do you lead strategic processes. And again, it's to have a holistic approach to sustainability. We say here in the midst, sustainable local economy. If you can build down this to say, well, we need to understand the social dimension in this village, in the rural areas. We need to understand the connection to the urban areas. And today, I would like to say, it will come, you have it already in Somaliland, there is a trend called urbanization. The new connections between the rural and urban areas, through kind of transportations, which should sometimes be with smartphones about information. Maybe in the future it's also about smart transportation for people. But there are things happening, and we need to visualize the things what's happening before that happens. Because then we think the great big thoughts when we dream of our future, not trying to replicate what we in Sweden, in the Nordic countries or in Europe have done in a bad way. You should take the next step, as I said before, to leapfrog, to take the best. We try to help you to fix it so you can come in to a better process with less friction and a higher friction of problems, a higher density of knowledge and understanding, but also about a new frequency, which means a better speed of development. So let me say that the next slide is about balancing two things. This is the final thing. Number one, we can have an internal perspective on a central government. We can look about the organization. And of course, governance is key. It's extremely important to get the governance right. Responsibility, accountability, transparency, reporting. Not least the financial reporting is important. Even if you have a devastating bad economy, you need to truly show in a transparent way your facts and figures about this is the cost, this is the assets, this is the debt. This has been the problem in Greece. We talk about it should be 150% or 180% debt of GDP. The reality is 60%. And the net is 18%. So that is why it's so important for each and every country who has an ambition to be investor ready, to be attractive for foreign direct investment, to showcase the truth, because the truth sets people free. If we understand this is the way it is, then you gain trust. Then you gain relationship with the business community in US, Sweden, and in Middle East, and everywhere. So transparency, accountability, communication with the public, with the open, is the key to achieve those kind of honorable things what we are looking for in the future. That takes us to the northeast quadrant. This is about the external thinking, the external happening, the trends and tendencies, and it's also about the territory. It is about Somaliland as a geographic area. We need to think in the future in the political leadership that it's to lead people on the ground, the citizens, in a city or in a country. It's not about leading the staff in the organization in a city or in the central government. Of course, we have to lead them, but the focus should be what is happening out there. How do we create the future for people in their daily lives? With technology, with schools, with water, with energy, with cooling or heating or whatever it is. It's a territorial perspective. So to be a territorial leader is a different thing than to be a leader of an organization. We can pick the best from both. And we can say, we can say the slide, that I just want to say thank you for this, the opportunity I have got. I would like to say continue to write on your success story, because the story of Somaliland is what will help you to leapfrog, to take territory, to be in a position, to be recognized. And story, you can sometimes just say, facts tells, but story sells. Congratulations to selling a good, true story about Somaliland. Thank you very much.